As my consciousness began to return, I remained still, unknowing of where I was or what was happening. I didn't dare move, cautious of the injury my right arm sustained. I felt the urge to open my eyes fully and instead lifted them so that I could just barely see under my eyelid. All I saw was white, and automatically pushed aside the improbable situations I wasn't in. My eyelids fluttered when I heard voices, and what shocked me most was that they were worried about me. Was I really that severely hurt? They will be alright, correct? I'm not losing her after the things I went through to save them. This is not happening. They will not die. They will not be going anywhere until we make up. I can't guarantee that nothing will happen to them, but I'm almost certain nothing will. Odebeck, Yuri, and an unfamiliar voice. I may not be entirely aware, but I can recognize the voices. I allowed my eyes to adjust to the surroundings. A hospital room. The first person to notice me was Odebeck, the faint trace of a tear on his cheek. He saved me. As soon as Odebeck saw me, he did the most unexpected thing. He cried out of happiness. This was shocking, seeing as he was a reserved guy, but tears of what I presumed to be joy fell down his face. I reached my left arm out and held his hand, to which he squeezed, and just admired the fact that I was awake. What happened when I was asleep? I turned my head and saw Yuri threatening the doctor, telling them to make sure that nothing would happen to me. His angered features softened when he saw me. His stream of words stopped abruptly, looking at me as if I were a miracle, and just simply stood and stared. I then turned to Odebeck, who had a large grin on his face, yet showing no sign of crying, no sign of weakness. It was a reassuring sight. He was a foundation I could always depend on, yet he rarely depended on others. He rarely showed emotion, yet he did it today because he always says I'm one of the things he cares about the most, except for his motorcycle. He always makes me smile, laugh, and feel happy, and I love him for it. I saw Odebeck straighten, and Yuri began to approach me. I thought you were leaving to protect yourself, so go, leave. I weakly sneered. Look, I know what I did was really wrong, but I want a new start. I want a second chance because I regret what I did, and I'm so sorry, he said, his voice grim due to the thought of denial. What you do and say determines what happens, and though you're the judge of what happens, I make the final decision. With that, he simply nodded, turned around, and walked out into the hall. I then turned back to Odebeck. He squeezed my hand for reassurance. After I was examined, I changed and was given clearance to leave at dusk. Though I was allowed to leave, I knew Odebeck was not going to be anytime soon, partially due to the fact that he was trailing me mostly everywhere. As we were exiting the hospital, my mind strayed, and I soon wondered where Yuri was. I shouldn't have been so rude to him. He was stressed enough about me, and I just added more to the stress. Maybe I should apologize. Hey, Wyan, you have that look on your face that indicates that you're thinking. What's going on? Odebeck asked sincerely and carefully, hoping not to strike a sensitive nerve. It's just Yuri. I snapped back at him there, and I feel guilty since he was already so stressed, but I shouldn't be feeling guilty since he did worse to me. So why am I feeling like this? I sighed in confusion. Hey, it's normal for you to feel this way. You were best friends with him for how many years? And that bond will always be with you. Even if you don't want it to, you'll carry it, and you will always have feelings for him, whether you're separated or not. But I don't understand what happened. You two used to be so close. I had an anxiety attack the other day which caused me to faint. Yuri found me and stayed by my side until I woke up. I was so moved when I saw him, but he told me that he had to leave to protect himself from the pain. He acted like nothing ever happened and left. I thought that the real reason he left was because I'm useless. I look at the ground. Otabek then proceeded to hug me and kiss my forehead comfortingly. You are not useless. If you ever feel like that again, just know how much me and Yuri, even if he doesn't know how to express it, care about you. He smiled down at me, about to let go, but I hugged him tighter. Hey, you wouldn't mind watching a movie at my place and spending the night at my house, would you? I'll make you a thank you dinner for saving me and buy a new movie that you want to watch. Even though I'd never be able to repay you, I hope this is some sort of consolation. You don't have to repay me. I did it because I wanted to. I'd love to spend the night at your house. He said as Yuri spotted us and started to walk the other way. I'll be right back. I started to jog in the direction of Yuri, the swinging motion of my arm causing pain due to the stitches. When I eventually reached the blonde in the middle of the vacant parking lot, I started to speak in a gingerly manner. Hey, I'm sorry about what happened back there. I shouldn't have snapped at you like I did. I'm frustrated and confused about what happened the other day. You know I didn't leave you to hurt you, right? I really meant what I said. If I get too attached to you, it'll hurt too much to go back to Russia. It'll hurt too much to leave you. The blonde turned around, street lights revealing the stains of tears apparent on his cheeks. He embraced me with a lifetime of love, which I embraced back. I'm so sorry. I really am. He started, but stopped due to the tears threatening to spill. Hey, I can't stay mad at you for long. Are you free tonight? Otabek and I are agreeing to have dinner and watch a movie. Thanks for the offer, but I don't want to intrude. You won't. It'll be more fun with all three of us. I grabbed his glove-covered wrist and began to guide him back to Otabek. Just don't leave me again, okay? It hurt too much the first time. I smiled grimly, turning back to him, tears threatening to fall. I promise. The car ride home was uncomfortably tense. Frigidity sitting in the back seat with Yuri. Eye contact was avoided, dialogue was non-existent, and the awkward aura was evident. I decided to speak to him. I know what happened between us. We both know what it did. It hurt. It did damage to our relationship. It distanced us, but did it break us? It didn't kill us. And it certainly did not end our relationship. It did not keep us away forever. It didn't make us unrepairable. It could never make us unrepairable, because we're just too strong to be broken. All we need is mending. Mending takes time. Time will pass, and though we may not be perfect, we will in our own way. Perfection will take time, but if time is all it takes, then I'm willing to wait for it. Are you? I asked quietly, genuinely unsure of the answer I would receive. Time may be able to fix us, and waiting is what I'm willing to do. Time can't fix the scars that I've left on both of us. Fixing those scars isn't possible. We both will always know of them and be aware of what happened. How can you be aware of them and never forgive me? Because I love you, Yuri, I stated with a comforting smile. I love you too, Wyan. He had no idea how much his words meant. He had no idea that I loved him more than a friend, despite what he's done to me. He has no idea that he'd ruined my life in the best way possible. Yuri's POV. They had no idea how much those words meant to me. They have no idea how those words would make me stay, knowing that those feelings are real. Living 1,000 miles away and in love will be unbearable. They have no idea they have made me give up my life. and ruined it in the best way possible. The night previous was irreplaceable. Irreplaceable was the knowledge of unbreakable bond between Yuri and I. It began when we entered my apartment, after the stains of tears previously fallen had disappeared from Yuri's cheeks. The dimples on Odebek's cheeks appeared again, as Odebek's smiles grew wider and Odebek's jokes became more hilarious. The night became more fun. And as I recall my vow to Odebek to provide dinner, I dreaded the thought, realizing how late it was. I decided to order takeout as the two boys competed with each other and joked around. As I finished ordering takeout, I joined their competitive joking. As we all left, as if nothing ever happened, their voices became background noises as what happened slowly engrossed my thoughts. I processed what had happened and realized that Yuri and I could never be the same. Because of the previous events, we could only become stronger. Strength was what would heal us, as time would only pass if I were to allow it to. Therefore, I urged my mind to blur the previous events in the past. As the recollections of what had happened disappeared and joyous thoughts clouded my mind, I smiled. Turning into the conversation that progressed into a debate, I discovered the topic of the argument, film choices. My choice is simple. I choose favorite movie. It's a terrifying thriller and a favorite of mine. Any objections? Odebek deviously smirked with the knowledge of the movie that terrified you. Other than that terrifying aspect of the film, no. I have plenty. Primarily, Yuri began. No objections, it is. Odebek interrupted. As the three of us prepared the couch with blankets and pillows, we gathered snacks and began to gather on the couch. When the movie had begun, I had grown excited to rewatch my favorite horror film until the first scare occurred. I instinctively clung onto something soft to provide comfort, but realized it had been Yuri's arms. Hesitance and tenseness arose until Yuri freed his arm from my grasp and draped it around my shoulder. Latching onto the side of his hoodie, I felt comfortableness and familiarity as it became a reminder of times previous. A reminder that provided knowledge that I hadn't received before. Despite everything that had happened before, and despite whatever may happen, Yuri and I would always be inseparable. Inseparable because we would always find each other. As this finding provided reassurance, my thoughts began to relent. As my thoughts drifted back to the present, Odebek had drifted into a sleep. Watching Odebek slightly snore, I slipped out of Yuri's grasp. I then crept towards Odebek and attempted to haul him to the guest room. Incapable of lifting the heavy man myself, I covered him with a blanket as a sign of surrender. As peaceful slumber seemed enticing, I slid onto the couch next to Odebek. Then I gently lifted Odebek's arm and draped it over myself as I drifted into slumber. The week quickly concluded. The conclusions loomed upon us throughout the week and finally met us at the day of Yuri's departure. Yuri arrived at my hotel room to converse for the final time. Then he would return to Russia and I would return home. But I forced my one to return to the present, which resulted in my observation of the young boy. Dread, fear, sorrow, and conflict danced in unison behind the boy's eyes. "What's wrong, Yuri?" I questioned. This situation that we've created for ourselves. This inner conflict of trying to preserve what is ours while trying to preserve what is mine. Yuri, I don't understand. Understanding is the foundation of resolution, therefore you need to explain to me the conflict. What isn't there to understand? We have destroyed ourselves and we fixed ourselves despite being destined to be broken once more. We prepared our relationship despite our departure, which will certainly result in nothing. It will simply be destroyed again because we have been cursed. The blonde furiously yelled as tears welled in his eyes, as well as my own. Yuri, it doesn't have to be broken if we maintain it. It can, I said in a small voice. It does not have to be, but it will. It was broken once and is bound to be broken again. The broken was repaired, but until when it will stay repaired? Until when will we have to repair a broken us? We were bound to break, but we weren't supposed to be repaired. The repairs have led us to break even further when we depart. Yet, I don't want us to depart. Departure will pry me away from what is mostly important. Us is not at my home. My home is not in Russia. I am expected to be content at my home, yet I am in constant confliction of whether or not I should return home. Yuri said as his voice broke and tears streamed down his cheeks. I haven't been home in years. Years have passed while I still feel so alone. I thought that the only thing that mattered to me despised me. Since I believed that was the truth, I felt like nothing mattered. I even thought my life hadn't mattered because what I cherished most did not belong to me anymore. I wasn't whole anymore without the one I cherished most. I was in constant confliction with the thought of never being whole again. I said as I nearly sobbed, Yuri, being alone was unbearable. The pain was unbearable, and I never want to feel such confliction. I have been in confliction for years. It took years to arrive here. It took years to arrive to my conclusion that I'm coming home. Yuri began. It took years to arrive to my conclusion that I am coming home. I repeated, You are home. We simultaneously stated. I began to sob with the happiness of finally feeling at home. Yuri began to cry with the happiness of finally feeling at home. I thought that home had ceased to exist when we broke apart. Now home is right here, and I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier because the person I love is with me. I stated, Home will never leave. I will never leave. I promise. Home never left. Home, we both thought that it left, but I guess we both misunderstood. I hope you enjoyed. This was the second part. I'm gonna peace out now. Bye everyone, I love you.
He's never gonna make it all that poor people he's forsaken. Karma is always gonna chase him for